Hello world, Shelly here, and it's time for your Friday Foundation Fix, where you can get your fix of foundation reviews in between foundation fests. And today I am checking out from Charlotte Tilbury the brand new Airbrush Flawless Longwear Foundation. This is just a sample size, but if you were to buy the full size, it retails for $44 for 1 fluid ounce of product. Comes in 44 different shades. It is vegan, and the Charlotte Tilbury brand is cruelty-free. It's currently getting 4 out of 5 stars, just over 4 stars on Sephora's website with 440 reviews. I have the shade 3 Cool, and they say this is a long-lasting, weightless hybrid skincare foundation, the secret to a flawless, poreless-looking, confident complexion. Full coverage, matte finish, normal, dry combo, and oily. The highlighted ingredients include Replexium, which helps reduce the appearance of wrinkles, Moss Cell Tech #1, so fancy, helps thoroughly hydrate skin, and Air Cool, trademarked, provides an immediate fresh feel on skin. It's a hybrid skincare foundation, contains the magic matrix of ingredients, including groundbreaking, all those things I just said. Hydrating, lightweight formula, is sweat-proof, humidity-proof, waterproof, transfer resistant. So the reason I have a sample, you know, Sephora does these little sample offers, and I purchased the new Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow palette so I could get this sample because I did their shade finder. When I put in Estee Lauder Double Wear 1C1 Cool Bone, which is usually my closest match on the shade finder, it recommended 2 Cool, and when I put in MAC NW15, which is my typical summer shade, it put in 3 Cool. So I was between 2 and 3, and since they had 3 Cool available in these little samples with a purchase, I figured I would roll the dice, try 3 Cool. It's probably going to be a little too dark for me. That'll be fine. Then I will know that I should buy the full size of 2 Cool when I love it, because surely I will, right? Yeah, we'll see. Some foundations have been wonderful, some have been terrible. Why do I itch right now? Like there's fuzzies everywhere. Let's take a look at 3 Cool swatched against a few others in my collection. Here we go. On Fridays we swatch. First up is today's foundation, the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation in shade 3 Cool. Second, I've got also from Charlotte Tilbury the Magic Foundation in shade 2 Fair, which is just a smidge too light for me. Third up is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place in 1C1 Cool Bone. Fourth is what the Sephora Shade Finder said is a match for this one. It's the MAC Studio Sculpt in NW15. And last up, I've got the Dior Backstage in shade 1 Cool Rosy. Starting out with a 44-year-old face, I've got some sun damage, smile lines, forehead lines that foundation likes to settle into, large pores around my cheek area here, some texture between my eyebrows. I have already cleansed, moisturized, and sunscreened. I'm having a little bit more of dry skin than normal today, so I went in with the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream. They say it is instant turnaround hydration. We'll see how that goes. I have already primed with my Strivectin Lime Blurfector. I usually take that, you know, cheeks, chin, forehead, in between the eyebrows. I am going to go in on one side of my face with a dampened sponge. This is a Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge, though I got it in Ireland, and it's a little bit different texture than, it reminds me almost more of the microfiber sponges. Whatever, it's fine. Other side, I will use my Artis Oval 7. We will see if sponge or brush is preferred. This is blending out easily with the sponge. There is definitely a noticeable scent to this. I would call it kind of fruity smelling, and that is me with a very unsensitive nose, so that means there is quite a bit of fragrance in here. I checked the ingredients. It is your typical dimethicone based foundation, but there is added fragrance, and it's about the middle of the ingredient list, so there is definitely additional fragrance going on. I would say right off the bat we are at a light medium coverage. You know, I still can see sunspots and things poking through, but it is canceling out redness pretty nicely. It's not as dark on my skin as I feel like it looks on the palette, so maybe the shade is okay. I mean, comparing it to like my forearm, we may be okay. Let's try the brush side. think the coverage is a bit more full with the brush. In fact, I can see the dividing line on my forehead from one side to the other, sponge versus brush. I think I like the brush side a little bit more. It's a little bit more of a smooth application. Not that the sponge side looks bad, but I feel like it just is less smooth. I've got a little bit left on my palette. I'm going to take what's left and kind of even out the coverage on the sponge side using the brush. This definitely looks more smooth with the brush, for sure. I think the shade is just a smidge too dark for me. Maybe a month ago, summertime, this would have been just right, but very much more smooth with the brush. Let's take a look here. I think we're at a medium, a good solid medium coverage. I wouldn't say it's quite full coverage. I still see just a little bit of hints of pink coming through on my nose and on my chin, but I feel like it's doing a nice job at masking things like my sunspots and the little blood vessels that run through my face underneath my eyes that tend to show through on foundations. So we're getting really good coverage of those kinds of things. I feel like it's doing a nice job at smoothing texture since I applied with the brush. It's clinging just a little bit to dry patches that I have under my chin and on my upper lip. It is not clinging to the texture between my eyebrows. It looks a little bit heavy on my forehead. Not too bad. It's one of those looks where I feel like I want to set it with setting spray, which I probably will not do for purposes of this review, but most days in my real life I do wear setting spray. But I try not to use it for reviews unless I'm in a situation where the foundation is so bad that I'm just trying to salvage it. It is not accentuating pores at all. I would say it is actually smoothing them out on my cheeks pretty nicely. Nothing seems to be settling into my pores. Overall, I think it is a nice looking foundation to start out. Let us check the time. It is 3:03 p.m. I'm going to go put the rest of my face on. I'll be right back. Okay, face is done. It's almost a full face of Charlotte Tilbury. I had a little bit of trouble blending concealer. So I had started out with the Marc Jacobs Accomplice for the areas of extreme darkness because this has really great coverage. And maybe because this is a stick formula that I was trying to blend in with my fingertips, it was immediately removing the foundation right where they overlapped. So I stopped that. Then I grabbed my Charlotte Tilbury airbrush, no, Magic Away concealer, my favorite concealer. That seemed to be fine. My under eyes are pretty dry along with the rest of my face, so it's not looking the best today, but it liked this better than it liked the stick concealer. I did end up setting the foundation very lightly with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish because it stayed tacky to the touch and I wanted to blend powder over it. I set almost all of my foundations. I'm hoping it kind of warms up to my skin a little bit because it looks just a little bit dry. It's definitely matte finish and I have pretty much no luminosity except for what I brought in with highlighter. I'm not seeing any reflect on my forehead or my chin or my nose. So I feel like it's definitely a matte finish. I would like it to be a little less dry looking. That might be fine. We'll see how it all sort of melts together. But other than that, everything started out fine. Let's see on the rest of my face. My eyes are the Charlotte Tilbury, the Icon eyeshadow palette. It's very tame for what I'm used to, but that's okay. For face, my bronzer is the Balm Desert. My blush is the Charlotte Tilbury Cheek to Chic. I just call it the nipple blush, you guys. That was something one of you said in the comments, and I can never unsee it. Highlight is the Natasha Denona Super Glow. My lip is the Charlotte Tilbury. It was just here right in front of me. Where? Oh, here it is. Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. This is like the most universal nude ever. I don't think you can always get it. I think it comes and goes. And that's about all of the excitement that we have going on right here. I'll be back in a bit with a daylight check-in, and I'll come back at the end of the night. We'll go through my final thoughts. Hey guys, it's been about 3 hours. It's just after 6 p.m. right now, and here is what this one looks like in daylight. Just a smidge too dark, so I feel like this would be my summer shade. You know, here's my forearm. For comparison, I gotta look up close. This one looks just a little bit dry, but it still looks very smoothing. Like, I feel like it's pretty good with the textured side of my face. Still, everything just looks nice and smooth. A little bit of my forehead lines visible, but not, I don't think they're being accentuated. Nothing is settling into lines at this point. I feel like coverage still looks fine. I don't think we're losing coverage yet, and that's good because it's only been 3 hours. So that is where we're at right now. I will be back at the end of the night and we will wrap this thing up. 10:35 p.m. That puts us, we're like half an hour from the 8-hour mark. But I have an early day tomorrow. I got a late start today. So we're going to cut this one short, just shy of 8 hours. And let's take a look at how the Airbrush Flawless Foundation held up. It's very comfortable to wear. I have not felt like I've had makeup on all day. Like, it's just a nice, normal, comfortable kind of foundation. It looks drier than it feels. I don't think it's drying. I wouldn't call it hydrating. You know, I don't feel like my skin is especially hydrated right now, but for as easily as my skin dehydrates, I don't think it is drying. It is probably slightly hydrating in order to keep up with the level of dehydration that my skin goes through to not be dry by the end of the evening. So I think it's pretty good on that claim. Let's zoom in. So I've lost some coverage on my chin and my nose, and it's doing that sort of thing where, you know, when it starts to wear down and the product just kind of starts to gather and bunch up and break up. So considering we're not even at the 8-hour mark, that's a little disconcerting. But really, every place else looks pretty good. It did not settle into lines. It clung a little bit to the areas where I have just a little bit of dry, peely skin. Not too bad. It didn't really fall apart anyplace else. Blush, bronzer, highlight are still intact. I don't feel that I look quite as smooth as I did a few hours ago, but a few hours ago I looked pretty doggone smooth. So it's a little bit starting to break up between my eyebrows, but forehead still looks pretty much the same as it did earlier. Not really much breakdown there. So I would say overall it held up very nicely, except in a couple of places. Really, those being my nose and my chin. Maybe I didn't prime them appropriately. Maybe my chin is just having a bad week. It seems like it has been. So overall, I would say held up pretty nicely. I wish it didn't look as dry because it doesn't feel quite so dry. And all day I just kind of, maybe I'm just not used to seeing a matte finish on my skin after I've had super, super dewy foundations lately. That could be the case too. I think it looks really nice on camera. I do think this is a shade too dark for me. I wouldn't buy this shade. This would be more closer to a self-tanning shade for me. It's not super, super dark, but it's just a little bit darker than I typically wear. And I feel like my face doesn't quite match my usual. And I prefer to skew slightly too light. I have a feeling 2 Cool is going to be a little too light, where 3 Cool is a little too dark. I'm not going to buy 2 shades and mix them. I've done that before, and I have so many foundations that I don't go through them fast enough to make it worth doing that. So I'll probably buy the full size of 2 Cool and then rely on bronzer to make it work when it's just a smidge too light. And in the winter, it'll probably be just perfect. So I did just say that I do plan to purchase the full size of this, so where does my grade come in? If I had to give a grade to the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish for dry and mature skin, I think it does a really nice job with the elements of mature skin like texture and lines and pores. Dry skin, I think it is suitable. I wish the finish wasn't quite as dry. So for that reason, I'm going to go a low A minus, because the improvements that I would see are slightly less of a dry powdery finish. I can probably fix that with setting spray, but I would like it to be a little less of a dry look. And really, that's about it. The shade range is pretty awesome. It's really comfortable to wear. It's very smoothing. I like a lot of things about this foundation. So we're going to go A minus. We're going to go like a 91 A minus. All right, Charlotte Tilbury. All right. There you have it. Another Friday foundation fix is in the books. If you enjoy foundation reviews, if you want to see more of them, please give me a thumbs up down below. Let me know in the comments what foundations you'd like to see next. I keep a sort of a tally. I add them to my list if I don't already own them. I kind of tally up how many requests I get for different ones to know which ones I should film first and film next. And I still got tons and tons of new releases in this bin. They're coming. I'm working on them. We will get there. It's my favorite time of the year. That is foundation release time. If you were not aware, I have a running list of all of the foundation reviews I've done. There's more than 130 foundations listed. Go on my website, geekoutofwater.com, click the Foundation Fest link. There's a ranked, sortable, searchable spreadsheet that you can see all the details of all of them. I have top 10 lists for top 10 drugstore, top 10 high-end, top 10 cruelty-free, and top 10 hydrating foundations. I will update it because this might make it into one of those lists, and the top 10 lists I have to update manually. That will happen eventually if this one broke the scores to make it into the top 10, but the spreadsheet will always be up to date. I put the new data in there within a week of posting the reviews, so check that out. If you want to see what I have already reviewed, leave me comments with the ones you want to see next. And as always, thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys all have an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.